Jason speaking.
Hi, Jason. This is PARANIUK. I just sent you that email.
Yeah, I just responded.
Right, and I got your response.
Okay.
Would you be able to simply just, to see if that video actually exists, just phone the property manager and just ask him if there's video from that time?
No, well, why don't you phone the property manager?
Well, because they're not going to give me that information without a police officer being involved, right? There's no way that they would. I know that.
No, not that they. It's simple information that if you ask people as far as do you have video coverage for something that's 6 months ago.
Okay.
But as far as Greg, if you want anything done with your file, I urge you to get your letter of complaint into us as soon as possible. We don't need to have all the details, but if you're wanting someone else to take a look at the investigation, we could send it out to the division, possibly for a review. If you want to investigate by one of our detectives to see if there was any wrongdoing by the officer and all that. That's the thing is I don't need to have another 40-page letter of complaint for you. We just need to know as far as from me, my task as an intake evaluator is to direct your complaint. Like I had indicated, those 4 options are basically what we need to know from you, and then it goes to someone else. So the quicker we're able to get something from you and not for you to kind of doing your own investigation through here, but by all means you can if you want, but that's just going to further delay things. And if there is any evidence that may need to be obtained as part of our investigation or our review, we need that forwarded as soon as we can.
Right. Well, so I guess you're suggesting that I contact the property manager?
No, I'm not suggesting you contact the property manager. I'm suggesting that if you want to submit your revised complaint, so then I can forward this off my desk to someone else, so then we can look to proceed with things that way. If there happens to be video, great, we'll be able to get that video. If they said it's a year, this happened, when was it, in April?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So as far as, we still have a lot of time. If it is before April, if you get the letter of complaint or your letter to us before April. However, based on my experience and even a lot of stuff within EPS, it's just 30 days. So if it's longer than 30 days, a lot of times that would be recorded or deleted already.
Right.
But if they told you that it is a year, it could be a year. But again, too, based on what she said, if based on, regular procedure is if we speak to somebody as far as the video and if they say, well, no, that wouldn't be covered, I'd say quite often or a majority of the time, we would take the person's word for it and not actually have to spend additional time and resources to actually review a video that wouldn't record the incident that you're questioning.
Right, but that's not what I said at all. I said that the video records the person entering the building, whereas Pierce said that the video does not cover the occurrence, which was the actual assault across the street, right? So in other words, Pierce knew that the person entered the building and yet dismissed the person who he's talking to about the video because it didn't cover the occurrence. Well, that's
I'm looking to possibly, if the video does identify this person coming in there, that there may be actually video of the suspect.
Well, that's the thing.
So that is something that because there have been situations that I have had files, and I guess yours is somewhat different than other ones that you don't want the officer to be involved in it. So whether or not sometimes the files would be assigned to another officer or even one of the detectives from the division to relook at things based on person contacting or person reviewing the file, and they felt that some of the stuff may have been missed by the initial investigator.
Right, right.
Yeah, but the thing is too, we've been sitting on this for for a number of months that no one from EPS has been able to proceed on this because we're still awaiting your revised letter of complaint, and that's where I think we spoke to in the past about if it's like even just points that you think that some things were missed. I don't need a list of the 10, 15, 20 things, but even if you say some things like missed, you say as far as there is video surveillance that it could be available as far as identifying them, or just as far as that you don't think that the officer did a adequate review, so then it goes or adequate investigation. So then if it goes, however we decide to route this, and someone contacts you and says, well, what do you think was missing? as far as we read through it, and then you can point out, this and this. I'm not talking about the semantics, but whether or not you need to explain things. However, whether or not I don't know exactly what the video showed, or if the video actually does have this person in there, or if there is actual video, if it was recording that day.
Yeah, I know. And so anyways, I don't know if you've read the reports that I'm referring to at all.
No. Well, at some point, probably a few months ago, that I perused them, but what are you asking about with those?
Well, what I'm saying is that there's so much information in those reports, and I haven't even got a clean copy. I still have a seriously redacted copy.
Okay. And
the stuff that's in that report is so insane, and if this was published, I would be suing for slander, but it's not, obviously. So, in other words, what I'm saying is that there's such an amazing amount of, I'm going to say lies in this report that, this is why my report is not going to be 1 or 2 pages. And
what lies are you suggesting, or can you give an example of one of them?
Well, did I mention to you the thing about that Pierce was suggesting that I cut myself with a knife? Did I mention that, or did I not mention that one to you?
Okay, well, I don't know if someone provided Constable Pierce with that information, possibly.
Well, no, okay, I guess maybe I didn't mention it.
Well, we don't actually, what you need to focus on between now and whenever is getting a revised, because otherwise, if you weren't looking to revise it, this would have been, forwarded off to whoever's going to attempt to resolve this for you back in August. The thing is too, if people are looking with your request and the thing is why I said as far as those directed you as far as with those police reports is a lot of times a lot of questions are answered by those police reports. However, it seems in this circumstances that it has increased the number of questions that you have as a result of reading the police reports.
Well, that's just it. It says I didn't have these police reports when I did the original complaint, right?
Well, then you can, all we need is if it's a couple of lines that you don't agree with the police reports, that there is, that you see lies or deceit within the reports, well, that can be summarized in just probably a paragraph. I don't need as far as all the points and all that stuff too, because the longer we delay things too, I'm not looking to speed things up. If it takes another month or two for you to get that to me, it's likely not going to change the outcome. I guess other than if there is possibly some video that would assist, so that if they said it's a year and we're not able to proceed with this till after that year has passed, well then we may be losing that video. But based on it, if they said it's a year and if it's still available now, I think it would be available in a couple of weeks if we requested it in a couple of weeks.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if it's going to be available over a year. So in other words, what if today happens to be the day that it's overwritten, right? I don't know. So that's why if you can contact the property manager, and I don't know why somebody cannot just pick up the phone and contact them and ask them that.
What I'm going to do then I'm going to contact the property manager, and as far as I'll be able to determine if there is any video, and if there isn't any video, I'll put it in the report. If there is video, I'm going to request that they burn a copy of it and have it available to us. Okay.
Okay, and that's all I was asking you to do.
It's going to be linked to my file, and as far as my file, then that's. You still have to work on, I guess, your letter of complaint. I'm, again, too, not looking for you to investigate it, because I think a lot of these details and a lot of the stuff that you're trying to put down in paper is something that could be available or made available with whoever's going to land up, taking over this file once we decide who to forward it to, and for if it is for investigation, if it is for supervisory review, if it is mediation, if it is facilitated discussion, there's a lot of options available to you. And the key thing with that is for you to determine what you want to see in the end. If you're just wanting questions to be answered, if you want, I don't know if you're looking to have the officer or officers reprimanded for by any means, because I'm not going to say to steer to an investigation or away from an investigation, but if it goes to our investigation, that basically determines, they'll investigate your complaint to determine whether or not that the officer acted appropriately, or whether or not if there was any discretions or if there was anything that the officer didn't do. They will, part of that they will not be investigating your complaint about the assault. They'll be investigating your complaint about the officer, just to clarify with that. Right.
Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, I'm hoping that not only the investigation is investigated, but that the assault would be reinvestigated. So, like, but I guess what I'm saying is, would it be better for me to create a brand new complaint, because it's going to be completely different based on this new information? And not only that, my new complaint is going to involve another related but not the same case file. Like, there's a related case file that was reported against me the previous week, and it's a completely different case number. So would I have to have a complaint for that, or would I combine it with this one?
Why don't we go to how do you think would you like your complaint resolved? Are you looking to have mediation? Are you looking to have a supervisor review? Are you looking to have facilitated discussion, or looking to have an investigation? That's basically the basis of it, and then through that, then you can, as far as all this other information could be included in that. But as far as, just looking as far as, do you think it's through supervisory review we'll be able to take care of this, or if it's going to land up, because we can't have both. If it's going to land up at some point, if you're looking for discipline or some action, or you're looking to actually make that you're going to want this investigated, well, then I would suggest that just get something into us, or advise me now that you're, based on the information I provide you in that email, and upon reviewing things further, that you're going to elect for an investigation. Then the file would be forwarded and likely assigned to one of our detectives that then would be able to contact you and likely set up an interview to discuss everything in detail.
Right. Well, I guess, I don't know. It's really hard for me to make like a flat out decision. Like, I guess the thing is, I want answers, and I want answers to like very specific things that are mentioned in these reports. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, right? So, and I also, to be honest, I would want some type of reprimand for the officer involved, because the stuff that I'm reading here is absolutely like insane is one way of putting it, but appalling, and I'm as far as I'm concerned, this makes me lose confidence in the police.
So what type of reprimand are you speaking of?
Well, I don't know what type of reprimands are available, right?
Well, are you looking as far as something on the, if you think through this review that a person may be advised or recommended that the officer have additional training in some way. But however, as far as reprimand, if you're looking as far as discipline, the officer gets suspended, that something go on their file or something like that, that you're actually looking for discipline against the officer. Well, the only way, in my opinion, or the only way that I know of, that would be through investigation, an investigation into the file, and if the officer was found to, do something wrong, like you said, lying, which we like to use the word deceit. If a person was, saying something that is proven not to be true, or that it isn't true, like if they say something or whatever. There's many circumstances, as far as deceit, falsehood, lying, whatever the case may be. But it may be something that you think that they're lying about, but whether or not was it lying, or maybe it wasn't accurately depicted or accurately explained. Because I don't know why an officer, say if that's the example, would say that you cut your wrist, or you had cut wrists and you didn't have cut wrists, or you never tried to cut your wrist, or no one thought that you'd ever cut your wrist, or no one ever said that you'd cut your wrist. I'm not sure why an officer would include that in the report.
Right. Well, to be clear, he said I cut my face, which is completely different, really. Because, that would be an extremely, I can't even imagine a person doing that, and I've never heard of a person doing that, but that's what he's suggesting. He's suggesting that basically, although I know for a fact that I was beaten up in the face to the degree that I needed stitches at the hospital, he's saying that because that particular assault is not actually in a video, that I may have, in fact, self-inflicted wounds with a knife. Like, that's insane, is what that is. And I won't hold back on my opinion on that. But anyways, and that's the thing, is that this is an extremely complex case with like so many things that I would like to have addressed, and that's why, like, I'm sorry, but if you think that I need to or should create a new complaint, then that's what I'll do, because it's not going to be 1 or 2 pages. It can't be. Like, I mean, there's so many things that I want to.
No. Okay. Are you talking about a new? Are you talking about a new letter or a new complaint complaining about something else? Because if you're complaining about something else, what I would in those situations, because we do have a lot of people that complain about various things. So when we speak to them, or else it might be someone else in the office is dealing with their other complaint, and I'm dealing with one complaint, or sometimes that we have we end up having the same individual with 2 or 3 different complaints that we have on our desk, and those are dealt with separately. So if it is, what I'm saying is if it's not associated, because what I'm saying is people will have a complaint regarding they dealt with police on this date and had a complaint on this date, say it's June, and then in August they had another involvement with police that they're complaining about. Well, that's a totally separate complaint.
Right, right.
And here with you having different files, like I know you're bringing in all these files, and it is, it's probably making this maybe a little bit more complicated and so forth. But I think at the very least what we need to do is determine what you want with this file, with what you've provided so far, and or whatever your next letter of complaint. If you want a brand new letter of complaint, but if it's related to this incident, we keep it as this incident. If it's a new complaint altogether, not involving any of the stuff regarding this incident, well then that would be a brand new complaint in a separate file. Right.
Well, and I guess the thing is that, you see, my current complaint was, at the time I wrote the current complaint, I know that a bulk of that document was dealing with the specific allegations made by that person in the previous occurrence number.
Okay.
Right? And you were saying, of course, that you wouldn't investigate that because that's outside the professional standards branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, I'm going to extract that and put that into a separate document that, basically, this person created an affidavit to have a restraining order against me, and in this affidavit, she contradicts a lot of her own statements. I'm going to be putting together a perjury document, and that's kind of what I'm working on as well.
Yeah, well, that's for the courts. That's not for us, in my opinion.
Right, of course. That's not for professional standard branch, and that's not, I'm going to present it to the police, and if they decide not to pursue it, then I'll be following up with the Crown Prosecutor and the Justice of the Peace. But that's just it, is I know that that's a totally separate thing, but that's what I'm saying is that I'm going to, given the fact that I'm taking that out of that complaint and that I'm going to be adding stuff from these case reports, it's pretty much a different beast, right? It's a different complaint altogether, and maybe that's what it should be treated as that the current complaint, you can keep it and do whatever you want with it, but this is really kind of a new thing.
Well, and that's what I was looking for. If you, because we get complaints, I get complaints that could be 1 sentence long, 1 paragraph long, or sometimes it's, a whole page or 2 pages. It's not often that it's, because I'm not looking to get all that information raised initially. Upon reading your involvement with police and upon reading the police report, if you think there's some inaccuracies or that the officer was untruthful or was lying or whatever words you want to use, and you have a complaint about that, and you want it investigated, or you have unanswered questions, and then it goes to a supervisor where you can list off, say, your 10 questions. You can talk to the officer and say, hey, these are the 10 questions that went unanswered. And then, okay, well, do you have an answer for this? And they may be able to answer a majority of the questions. Not likely that they're going to be able to answer all your questions, but maybe attempt to resolve things that way. However, if you're looking for more than having things explained to you and have questions answered and looking for some type of discipline, discipline against the officer, well, then that's when we'd be sending this to investigation.
Right. And I guess that's definitely a possibility. But I guess what I'm kind of,
and through the investigation, maybe through that, and if there is something that needs to be reinvestigated or something like that, maybe there could be recommendations that somebody review the initial complaint or something like that. But we need to know as far as we need to have a starting point, and I'm okay with updating my file every time that we have communication. But as far as like you indicated too, you're getting the 45-day letter and so forth, and that's where as far as the documentation or any delays in this is based on us waiting for that revised letter of complaint from you.
Right. And just to be totally clear, I personally am not concerned with like any sort of time delay. Like in other words,
okay,
this information will never go away. So in other words, like I'm not in a rush to get this investigated. Like it's not like I'm chomping at the bit to get the investigation into the investigation done. But the only thing that made this current today is just my realization that this footage might exist.
Okay, well, what I'm going to do for you and for this file is I'm going to contact based on, I think you provided the phone numbers there, and actually, wait a second, I was trying to link in your email from the other day. I'm just closing that out, and we're going to go to this latest email.
Right.
And so it's from April 23rd from 10 p.m. to 10:30, right?
Yep,
yeah,
that's
so
right.
I can contact, so it's Group 3 Property Management is who so you've spoken to Arthur and AJ?
Yes, I think Arthur is probably the guy to talk to. AJ is his boss, so probably try Arthur first.
And the building is Alta Vista South at 10303 111th Street?
That's correct.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is contact them regarding that, and then at least we'll either we'll have whatever, we'll attempt to retrieve any and all video that they have pertaining to those between 10 and 10:30. So that's so that's all we need is between 10 and 10:30.
Well, ask if they have the entire day of April 23rd, simply because the assault was at 10:20, but you never know whether there are people mulling around the building.
Yeah, no, but
right?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to contact them, and then we'll know right away. And I'll be surprised if they still have it, but if they do have it, I'm going to request that they make copies, and we'll go from. We like to go. We'll see if they can go a half hour before, a half hour after, so maybe from 9:30 till 11.
Right.
Okay?
But I guess, and like, I think that that's perfectly reasonable. I guess what I'm saying is that if it does exist, that the entire day is there, that could be worth something, because there could be like mulling about, right? Like people walking around that are relevant.
Yeah, but we're talking as far as we got to limit, to as far as for the amount of time and effort for everybody to be spending on this, that it. Whether or not this lands up, this may not ever get looked at, is what I'm stating. Depends on what course of this that this goes. Okay.
Right. So and I appreciate that, and that's pretty much all I was asking for in this current email, is that somebody could contact them and find out whether it exists, right?
Yeah.
So,
but I to be honest, I'm going to contact them. If we have it, we're going to request it, and hopefully we can get it. If not, if they say no, the furthest we can go back is 1 month, or 2 months, or if it was maybe September 30th was the latest that they have, and or something like that. And
yes, I understand. I understand. Okay. So could you call me back when you get that information?
No, what I'm going to do is I hope to not speak to you again until I have the revised letter of complaint, and then I can give you a phone call from there and ask you how you wish to proceed. Or if there are indications on how you think you want to proceed with this, I'd suggest you let me, if you can focus on that, and I can provide you information on the options to proceed with things, any of the alternatives that I put forward to you, or for the investigation, because that's for me, that's a priority right there.
Right. Well, could you just please, just so that I can go to sleep at night properly, just tell me whether that video exists so that I have something to think about and hope for? Would you be able to just do that? Like, could you just throw me a
Yes, I will, but as far as I don't know, as far as your work schedule and all that, but could you do your best to have that letter of complaint to me by the end of this week?
I don't think so, no. I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's going to be, it's going to be pretty long and detailed, and it could be it probably will be a new complaint.
Why does it have to be long? If you're questioning the officer's investigation, I'd put that in a couple lines. If you're questioning as far as how the officer treated you, I'd spend 2 lines on that. You don't need to point out if there's inconsistencies or lies or anything like that. I'm not looking for the explanation, actually for the examples or anything like that. You just, as far as in dealing with the police officer did this, or the police officer documented things in his report which are lies, this, and this. I don't need the examples or anything like that. That's going to be for someone that when it goes to the next person is what I'm suggesting.
So I guess maybe that was where perhaps I had a misunderstanding previously, because so you're saying that I could just have like a simple thing of saying, in this case report, I believe that there's bias and inaccuracies, and in this other case, these.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, as far as for that, and whether or not you can put it notes, or it's going to be indicative actually from your initial complaint and all that too, that there is a lot of detailed information and so forth. But as far as based on that, yeah, the summaries don't need as far as as far as this, I don't need at this time, say if you felt that the officer lied in his report, I don't need you ripping apart a 5-page report and putting, say 4 or 5 pages, basically bringing up all the incidences and, basically disputing, okay, well, he said this, but, this is what happened. He's saying this is what happened. That's something when it goes to the next stage or upon, what's happening here, they could be looking at that.
Okay, so in other words, at some point, I will have an opportunity to write that sort of a detailed report, because I feel that I need to make those sort of comments. I mean, obviously you're saying that would be in a second report and not in this first report.
Well, not as far as the second report. That, if anything, will depend. For example, if they went to an investigation, what I would suggest is if this thing was going to get investigated, arrangements would be for you to come in, likely to come in here and to sit down and have a detailed interview with with the detectives. And then as far as at that time, if you had a list of questions you wanted to bring, or else then that's when you can explain as far as your involvement with police. And, if a lot of it has to do with that you don't feel that the officer did the best that they could do as far as investigating and looking, reviewing and grabbing all the video and reviewing all the past files and, all this stuff, well, then that could be okay. So, are you saying that the officer didn't do their job, or whatever, incomplete investigation or something like that? It's one thing if maybe they didn't do as thorough an investigation, but as far as through that is if you're suggesting that the officer lied, well, that's a kind of a totally different ballgame,
Right. Well, I mean, to be totally honest, I'm suggesting that the officer actually, provided the suspect with an alibi, or the person who I believe conspired to have this done. That's what I pretty much, that's my belief, and I know that sounds pretty outrageous.
So how are you saying that the officer gave the person an alibi?
Well, I'm saying that in this report, he's saying that he contacted this girl who made these allegations against me, who I believe with 100% certainty conspired to have this assault. So he contacted her a week after the assault to talk to her about this, right? And he asked her, so what time did you come home from work that night? And she told him, amazingly enough, that she came home from work at 10:20 p.m., which is the exact time that I went out and got assaulted. Now, the thing is, how would she remember a specific time of 10:20 p.m. a week after the fact, when in fact she could not remember a single date or time of any of the allegations that she made against me? So somehow, a week after the fact, she remembered 10:20 p.m., not 10 p.m., not about 10:30 p.m., not around, quarter after, 10:20 p.m., the exact time that I got assaulted. Somehow she remembered that a week after the fact. The only way she would know that information is that Pierce actually told her that information. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's what you're thinking, but do you have proof of that? Do you have recordings, or do you have evidence of someone saying that the officer told her that this incident happened at 10:20 or to say 10:20? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what it says in the report. It says that she told him that she got home at 10:20 p.m. the same time as the assault. It's like, well, how would she know that, right?
Well, and maybe...
Like, I'm sorry if I'm sounding like...
No, but maybe if someone asked her, well, how do you know it was 10:20? And it's like, well, maybe, yeah, I was on the phone, or I just received a phone call from one of my friends, such and such, and I was talking to that person when I came in the lobby, looked at their cell phone record, and yeah, it was at 10:20 when I got home. Or if they get off work at 10, or they left the movies and it takes about 20 minutes to get home, yeah, it was about 10:20. You know, there's all kinds of things, but that's where, you know, if someone maybe the question wasn't asked, and maybe whether or not if and when the question may be asked of her, she may be able to provide an explanation of why she knew the time. I don't know if she's going to answer saying, well, I conspired to actually get my neighbor so-and-so assaulted. I made arrangements for it to happen at 20 after 10 on such and such a day. That's why I remember that day. Even if she's not likely going to say that. But I know what you're saying, and where you have questions, and the thing is too, some of that might be able to be answered by the officer, but maybe it wasn't just put in the report. Because, you know, for this, what time to get home, 10:20. Well, if I was writing the report, a person said 10:20. Well, how do you know it's 10:20? It's because of this, and this. Well, it may be something that the officer knows the answer to your question, but it may have not been put in the report because maybe they felt it wasn't necessary. Do you know what I'm saying with that?
Yeah, I know what you're saying about that, but I'm saying that this is the same person who couldn't remember a single date of time or of any of the other allegations that you made against me, and yet suddenly a week after the fact, she remembers 10:20 p.m.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but that's a big thing. That's crazy. That's like so unbelievably impossible that it defies explanation. That she would know 10:20 p.m. is the time that she came home. Just like a week after the fact, she remembers this, right? Like I don't buy it. I say that Pierce gave her that information. That's what I'm saying. And I'm sorry to sound like I'm raising my voice or getting upset about this, but this is the sort of thing that just makes me...
Well, if you think he did, and that could be part of the investigation, that you think he was funneling her or provided her with information, including that time, and then through the investigation, if he gets sit down and interviewed and say, for example, here is a report, you know, as far as 10:20 p.m., how do you know it's 10:20 p.m.? Did you provide that information? And then, you know, whatever the answer, it could be whether or not it's unknown or saying no, why would I provide it, or else, yes, I provided her that, whatever the case may be. If that's an issue, you know, that's something that, you know, could come up through the investigation. It's not something that I need to be, as far as have details, like we just had a, you know, 5-minute conversation on, you know, on one line that was put in the report, and, you know, through that, by talking to the officer, it may be able to answer a majority of these questions.
Right.
As far as through the investigation, it might be as far as it put in there, and are you able to prove that the officer did say that? Like, is there any evidence, you know, and that might be, you know, whether or not she ends up getting interviewed and says, well, how do you know it's 10:20? It says, well, actually the officer said, the officer provided me that information, the officer is corrupt, the officer is no good, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Again, too, like, I mean, I know you have a lot of questions, you have a lot of suspicions about what happened, but what we need to, is going to come out through our investigation or through our review and all that, is we got to follow the evidence. You know, if there is, through this assault, if there happens to be video still available, and say this person walks in and actually looks at the camera, and we're able to find a picture, and maybe someone recognizes them from the building, or someone actually knows who this individual is, yes, it might actually be able to put a name to the suspect. But if there is no video available, I guess that gets rid of that. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's it. And
but a lot of times we do have pictures of individuals that they go on the media and all that stuff through media releases, and a lot of people don't even recognize these people. But that's where I'm saying we can only investigate, but we need to, as far as go with the evidence.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's the only reason why I emailed you, is to see if you could phone and find out from the property manager whether the video exists.
Yeah, but as far as this is something that we should have been addressing there from the beginning.
Well, I didn't know about that from the beginning, so, you know, like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you don't have to apologize, but I have no troubles as far as going with the video, but, you know, I'm not looking to rush you and all that. I got about 40 other files here on my desk that I'm trying to work through as well, so I have no issues with requesting that video, and I can send you an email saying, yes, there is video, no, there isn't video, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Okay.
And like I say, at some point, I feel that I must make my voice heard about this, and that's why I feel like I must, in fact, comment about this report. So if you're saying that you want a brief summary, I can provide a brief summary, but at some point I'm going to provide like a lengthy, detailed report, because that's the sort of thing I need answers to these questions, and I'm an investigative type of person. I need to know why, for example, why Pierce didn't even bother finding witnesses at the time. He didn't even bother, going perhaps to the media to ask for witnesses, something like that.
Well, the thing is, too, that's where we are limited as far as time and resources. Again, too, I don't know as far as how serious the assault is, but as far as for the more serious ones, like say homicides, yeah, they do door-to-doors, they do canvass the neighborhood and so forth. But on a lot of other situations, a lot of other files, the time and resources are limited. Is that we can't be spending absorbent amount of time on every file.
Right, but I guess what I'm kind of, in general, I'm kind of curious, in terms of an assault where the person was knocked unconscious, how do you investigate that? I know that this person is somehow related to the person who made all these allegations the previous week about me, and so it's like, if I had been knocked unconscious and had no previous knowledge of anything, how would you investigate that? You'd go to the media and ask for witnesses. I don't know why
you don't go to the media for, there's, I don't know how many incidents that happen on a daily basis throughout the city, and a lot of serious ones, serious stuff. Not everything goes to the media. We can't be using the media for every single file that we have. As far as having, you could probably have enough information out there. You can have a probably 24-hour Edmonton Police channel or something like that. Just look at how many people there are in the city that are out there right now that have warrants, outstanding warrants. How many people that are that we're actively searching for numerous different files. It's within limits, and I know too. Through that, if I ask somebody, I say, hey, do you have video? And says, yeah, well, this is where it happened. They says, oh, well, the camera wouldn't cover that. Well, I would assume that would, if the person that knows the video system and knows the area and knows where the videos are pointed at, if they say, well, that wouldn't be recorded.
Right, and that's the thing. I'm not saying...
Well, and that's where...
I'm saying that the video records the suspect entering the building. He knew that. He didn't follow up on that. I know that it doesn't cover the assault. That's fine. But it covers the suspect who entered the building, and Pierce knew that, and he didn't look at it.
When you asked him about that, what was his explanation as far as why he didn't look at it?
Well, I didn't ask him about that because he never, and here's the other thing, he has never contacted me after the fact to follow up on this. He wrote all this stuff, closed the file, did a couple of follow-ups with other people, never contacted me once to follow up on this.
Okay.
That just outrages me to no degree that he didn't care enough to contact me.
But that could go both ways. That's where I advise people to, if they have questions, they should have the name of the officer and try to get a business card or get their badge number so then they can call them. Quite often, just like here, when I do send it forward, like for files I send to the division, I tell people, I says, if they don't hear from an officer within a couple of weeks, give me a call back to see, just in case that the file got maybe misplaced or didn't get assigned to somebody, just to ensure it got assigned. Otherwise, if they do get contacted, but as far as that's where still too, the onus kind of goes back on the, on the members of the public, that if they haven't heard back, well, they can't just say, well, hey, the officer forgot about me or the officer didn't follow up. Yeah, there are some officers that are more diligent as far as following up and saying, yeah, we did look at this, this, and this. However, we haven't been able to find anything, and no witnesses, so the file is concluded pending further information, and go from there.
And Pierce and no one else from that group who came to talk to me gave their business cards or even gave their names, right, or their numbers, right? Okay. So I didn't have that information, so I actually followed up later. Yeah. And not only that, but at the point where, after this assault and after trying to contact him several times, I basically pretty much knew that he didn't really give, to be totally blunt, a shit about this case, and therefore that's why I didn't follow up with him.
Okay, so you tried to contact him?
I tried to contact him at one point, but I said, and the thing is, I contacted him after the fact, and I said, you know what, I still have to live with these people, and I'm afraid for my safety, so maybe, postpone the investigation a little bit until I moved, so he did. But then, so he contacted a few other people, and this is documented in his report. Like in May, he contacted some other people. In August, he contacted some other people, and you would think, and I would think, and I would bloody well expect that he would contact me to follow up and say, you know what, this is what we're done. We've done this. We're done. We're finished. You know, do you have anything else to add? I would expect that. I would not expect that I would have to, like, go knocking on his door to phone him every time to get that information. I would expect that he should care about the person who actually got assaulted, who actually has evidence of a crime being perpetrated against him, and follow up with that person.
Well,
not only that, but I was reading in his report that there's some type of financial assistance for victim services, and that was never conveyed to me at all. And I only found out about that in this report, and I'm going to follow up on that today to see if that still applies. But Pierce did not inform me of that at all. And it says that I was tried to contact by mail, I guess, but nobody ever phoned me and left a message to say, you know what, this is something that we can offer to you, right? So he never did that. Why not? Why would he not have phoned me, left a message, and said, you know what, you can do this? That's what I'm saying.
Greg, but
I'm sorry.
Well, that's where, the officers have a lot of files, too, that they carry as far, quite often what it is, if there is additional information, they will contact you, and if there isn't any new information, well, then they won't contact you. We do have our victim services unit that usually does follow up in these types of circumstances. Someone from victim services may or may not have attempted to contact you to follow up with you.
Right, and apparently victim services attempted to contact me by mail, but why not contact me by phone? Well,
maybe they didn't have your phone on the file. I'm not sure why they would.
Did, though. Of course they had my phone.
Well, again, too, if you want to answer, why did they try mail me? Well, when they responded to you, did you get the mail?
No, I didn't. That's the thing. And it could be very well that around that time I was moving, so maybe they sent it to my old address. That's very possible. But what I'm saying is that, my phone number is there. Phone me, leave a message, tell me that this is available. And this was done like a month after the fact, too. These are the things, I only found out about this victim services thing, yesterday looking at this report. So, I don't even know whether I...
Yeah, but if they tried to send you, people can, same thing, our office. We don't call people to as far as update. We have that 45-day letter, so that's the way, so then people actually have, there is actually a recorded way people can keep the letters. It's letters that we can have documented to our files as well.
Right.
So as far as, if they could, as far as they may have known that they tried to contact you by letter and, whether or not the letter got undelivered or whatever the case may be, but, it's one of those things, same thing like this. If you're going to email me, you don't need to call me. If you're going to call me, you don't need to email me, because quite often I spend my first hour of the day linking in, 3 or 4 phone calls from the same person to the file, because, we document everything, and then it shows, okay, well, this person called 3 times in an hour. Well, and, as far as, I know that, whatever, we get paid by the hour, and we are, we have a job to do. However, it does tie up, my time is if I'm linking in, constant messages from the same person saying the same thing, and not able to actually return the calls because there's all this other stuff that we have to link in.
Right, and I understand where you're saying that if I email you, I don't have to call you, and if I call you, I don't have to email you. But I emailed you a simple request to just contact the property manager, and you said flat out you weren't going to do that until I send you my complaint. So I have to call you because I want to know whether the video exists. So, if you would have said, you know what, I'll call them.
Well, as far as that's where I could review things with my, and what it is, what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you actually what I'm going to suggest if I don't receive your letter within 3 weeks, I'm looking for this file to be concluded, because that's normally what people that tell us they're going to submit letters, like if I spoke to you for the first time today and you said you wanted to submit a letter, we keep the file open for 3 weeks. If we don't get the letter within 3 weeks, we conclude it. This is a little bit different because our office maybe decides saying, well, if we haven't got the revised statement, we're going to we'll work on with the first statement you sent. But that's where you need to, as far as decide which one of those 4 options I provided to you that you think would be most appropriate in dealing with this.
Okay, so I guess I'll give you a short summary.
Yeah, that's all I need is, I don't need to, because, I don't need to know as far as just as much as, hey, you don't think that the officer, if you don't think the officer did a good investigation, if you think the officer lied, if you think that there is inaccurate information presented, if you think that they, whatever, just, you don't need as far as getting, getting specifics. Like you could say that inaccurate or lied by saying something that happened and it didn't, or incomplete investigation because didn't even review the video. So
right. And I probably was Probably when I submitted the complaint, I didn't even know really what was expected in a complaint, and that's why I went kind of all out and put all that.
Well, I think through one of my emails or communications previously that I suggested that maybe just a page or two, just point form as far as what you look to be your issues and concerns. Like, if
right,
I have,
yes, I know that.
If you have a number of, if you have, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 questions regarding the files that you have for police, or a lot of unanswered questions, missing information and so forth, well, you don't need to document it through a few pages. Just put in what it is. Okay.
Right. Okay. So I'll create a little brief summary.
Yeah.
And then at some later point, I'm going to write a more detailed.
You can write as much as you want, but what I'm looking forward to is to get this off my desk and assigned to or forwarded to whoever's going to.
Okay, and then that's fine.
Because, for example, if it's an investigation will likely probably take at least a year anyhow, because just with I think 6 months is maybe average for completing an investigation once it gets assigned to them. Right,
and I guess that's just it. I'm sorry if I misunderstood the proper procedure, but I guess what I'm saying is that if you're telling me that it would be a year, that's perfectly fine, and within that year, I am 100% prepared to produce a document that details all of my concerns, because that's just the sort of thing I do, I guess. But I will give you a brief summary.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so please call the property management and email me to tell me what they tell me.
Yes, unfortunately, I probably got about 6 other things ahead of that as well, so I'm hoping to get that.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.